this from myself. But Nachman said, do it and cover Allah. If it involves the destruction of the Zara, or for that matter, a prohibited item, even though, yes, I do want to continue the existence of the INS, I get it. I don't want it to break on its own. I want to break it. I don't want the Quran to be uprooted on its own. I want to uproot it. But nevertheless, I am permitted to go ahead and do these activities, get food for them, keep the proceeds, because the destruction of people, the destruction of the Zara, the destruction of prohibition ultimately is a good thing. It says you get paid and Tabo Allah. Incredible. I must say, it really is such an interesting idea. Because, kind of like part of Western society, the mindset is, live and let live. And that is important. As members of society, just as a general approach to living in a greater society, we should both take an approach to living. Yes, it's not the obligation to be stable and refuse to ideas, nor is it your place to stand in judgment of everyone else's lifestyle choices or ambitions. Live and let live. That's to a certain degree, that has to be our approach to living society. On the other hand, it's also teaching us this idea that evil shouldn't be allowed to take root within our world. And when there's something that is evil, it has to be uprooted. When there's something that is evil, it has to be broken. When there's something that is evil, it has to be smashed, it has to be destroyed. Because if you let evil take root, then it spreads, and unfortunately it becomes the norm. Sometimes then those norms ultimately again become incredibly corny. That's why the Nafi uses this question of yes, destroy the INS, Tabo Allah. Is ridding the world of evil. Is it rough? That is rough. It's not easy. It's not easy. And it's fraught with incredible challenges. We see this for what think about such an incredible thing. When you think about what the nation of Israel, the state of Israel is doing. If someone would think that like the world would just line cross, like just fine. Because we're doing the world's dirty here. And yet again, it's hard because often the world can't see what's evil, what's good, can't see who's right, who's wrong. But the Matthew tells us sometimes it is a little live, and sometimes when Matthew says Yishmar, sometimes you have to overcome evil, you have to break it, you have to smash it, you have to destroy it, you have to do it. Ultimately, the process is difficult. The process is cruel. The process is the life. But ultimately, when you get to the other side of the process, that's what it's like. The Gemara goes like that. But Hadu Yasvi, so again, the same fellow is saying, and the answer to the question was Hadu Yasvi, if you're coming by like, they have us come the other way. So that's like, this is very important. What happens if an Apple sells his item? So Apple sells his item and he has now something for $1,000. $1,000. Does that money in the hand of the Apple take on the same identity as the Apple who saw it itself? Mitofes has done that the other week. Does it take on the identity, right? Does it take on the identity of the idolatry or not? So I'm going to do that. So it's very interesting. So ultimately, the announcement says, this that with the nail is from the other week, probably the top. So announcement says, I think it's better. That if an Apple sells his item and he has that money does not retain idolatrous identity, but rather that money is just one day away. Listen to this, so these are reference proof. I know the Dawson made it out of there were these came of rabbis and what happened. However, Zero Zikun combined the Islam, the suicide, which is fascinating. So that means like this. There were these people who came of rabbis and what happened was Rabbi and they wanted to convert. David told them, guys, before you convert, here's what you need to do. Sell off all of your idolatry, right? Sell off all of your idolatry, and then you have the cash. After you do that, then convert. Now listen and watch this. That's the over here. Rashi says, when you have to look at Rashi, look at the Swiss guy. All of this guy, the Swiss guy, also didn't call us all those Maharam Shabbat. Because remember, if they convert, it's still playing the idolatry, then that's idolatry of another Jew. Idolatry by Jew number one can never be gay, right? Can never have its identity. They can't get enough. So it tells them instead before, while you're still Gentiles, sell it off. You have the money, then you can convert and the money is permitted. What do you see from there? Obviously, you see from there that the sells his idol, that cash is permitted. So the Gemara says, my time off, we shouldn't look outside, then they have it. Let's go come and get other coming time. Let's see that the proceeds of the sale of idolatry hands of the ultimately is permitted. I have begun to change the table that I way, but I bought one. Maybe that case is since they're in the process of conversion, obviously they're negating the theological significance of the idol converting. So an apple can be the bank of his apple desire. So maybe that's why the proceeds are. Hallelujah. Rabbi Gemara says, here's the proof. Yisosha Moshe Rabbi Rothschild. Umafar Avogos Kofamin Dehem. I lent $1,000. So what happened? So the uncle went and sold his own. Right? And brought me the proceeds from the sale. Or Yaines in the same case. I went ahead and I lent $1,000. He sold his Yaines. And then he brought me the proceeds of the sale. What's the law? Mutter. Ultimately, again, it's mutter. Interesting. Gemara says, now, however, watch this. Until you actually enter, let's go from Kapila. Unless they are in the same case, I'm not going to $1,000. It's the they me in Romania, I'm just going to sell my oil. I have got the proceeds. I'm going to sell my Yaines. In that case, it's awesome. See, here's interesting. Case number one, same case. I lend $1,000. Case number one, he goes off, sells his idol, goes off, sells his Yaines. I brings me the proceeds, pays back the debt. Case number two, same thing. I lent him $1,000. He says, I want to pay you back. Give me a couple of hours. I got to sell my idol. I got to sell my Yaines. Then it comes back with the proceeds. The proceeds are prohibited. So what's the extension? What's the extension? Sifa Yushunta Abileki wants it. So this is very simple. So now this is to circle back a little bit to the previous Sifa. Here's the difference. The second case, where the applicant says right here, while I sell my idol, or while I go ahead and sell my wine, I want the continued existence of the idol, the continued existence of the wine, because I wanted to take. So because I want it, therefore Sheshes causes the proceeds of us. If you notice that the Kiyuma Kiyagafa, that's what we just said before, that that's mutter. That's mutter. In other words, we'll say, when you want the continued existence of something, but I'm not doing anything to further the existence. So yes, of course, I want the continued existence of that idol until the apple sells it for a lot of money. I want the continued existence of the Yain Mesach because I want my money. But I'm not doing anything to facilitate the continued existence of these forbidden items. Why should it be also? Not tonight. Here, it's not tonight. Here, the other problem. She Yarshu at the end of the comes. This is very interesting. She has two brothers. One converted, and one if they're both they're African brothers. One converted and one is not. So brother Ger, brother Ahmed. So what happens? Their father died. His father died. Her father died. So they want to split the estate. In the estate is idolatry and let's say permanent items. So Ger, Yahomar, Lord, so brother Ger can say to brother Ahmed, you take all the idolatry stuff, you take all the items, and I'll take the money and the nails. You can do that in the Shabbat, and that's weird. However, in the Shabbat, it's just like us. Obviously, all of these presuppositions that Ger has not been possession of the Nessa or items. Obviously, once that happens, there's no more recourse. Right? But well, there is recourse. See this. You get to the Bible, so it's much more common. Once a Jew owns it, there are really very limited. It says, long as brother Ger has not yet taken possession of these items, the problem is not come providing up the estate. However, if brother Ger took possession, then it's possible. So what's this? Ultimately, what do you see from there? The halach l'maisa. Now, in this case, brother Ger wants to continue the existence of the idolatry of the Yain itself, but he's not doing anything active to promote his continued existence. And therefore, it's mutter. So what's the problem? Which is Rava Barulan Mastisema Bodas Kofam Skalek Ishkala. What's the case over here? No? This dish is talking about, I know that's what it's made out of, so choose that one. Even if it breaks, it's still valuable. So therefore, again, Brother Ger doesn't actually care if it remains in its post even if it breaks, who cares? It still has value. Usually, that's called that's called that works fine for an idol. How would you explain the case then of Yayin Nesach? The Pharis and Dre. So what's the thing? Adrianic. So currently, Rashi points out that here, Adrianic person where absorbent. So therefore, you put wine in there because the absorbent and you can take a shot of that ocean put it in water, and reconstitute it. In that case, also, Brother Garrett doesn't care if the casks break doesn't either way, the value is still retained. Which the rest of the one saying, no, let's one second. Even if that's so, even if Brother Garrett doesn't care about the fact that it break, right? But he does care whether or not it's still lost, he still wants to continue existence. Papa, Lucius, Gerhama, don't bring a riot in this case. You're bringing a riot, bringing a piece in the case of the inheritance. Ger, no. Shani Lucius, Ger, that Kilo Bara. Rabbis were naked by Yerusha. Normally, the Gemara says perhaps this case should be problematic. But halacha myself, Chazal were naked by Yerusha. As long as the ger has not yet actually taken possession of the Yain or the idols, he is absolutely permitted to work for salary of his brother. I didn't say, you take this, you take the whatever it is, I'll take the stuff. No, yes, he was taken to existence. Why? Why did they go by a ger? That people are on Zera Shemin Yatsu. They are afraid that if the ger has to make a choice between his unconstitutional and his religion, he will choose his money and choose his religion. That's not a matter of ger. That's the reality of the religion. We've seen this before as well. For example, right? It's said that in certain cases of theft, the thief doesn't always have to return that which he stole. The victim should not accept back the stolen item, right? In order to go out and facilitate the execution, afraid if the thief has to return everything without any collection. These are practices that people to engage in self-sacrifice when it comes to our jobs. Money is necessary. Otherwise, as much as we say in our reports, as long as you have your health, it's true. As long as you have your health, and you can pay your bills. Because if you don't have money, it's like, and many people do not stand up to religious challenges or the choice between religion and or afraid that he has to choose between halacha and ultimately again the solution, he may be tempted to choose the solution. Again, not because of the gift, because it's human nature. So if he's out in that situation, they're going to make up by there. I'm saying that often in this kind of case, you're going to have a state that is comprised of committed items, therefore allow him to keep committed items in his case rather than all of us. Those are other things. Okay, nice that supports this. Imagine what is this so? Sheer shoot, it's a new shot. About Mishnah for us. If that's a business partnership with us, we succeed from here. The Chazal allowed certain things to happen in the context of the Yusha, but they would not have known allowed to occur in other contexts as well. We don't want to put the person in this role in this precarious situation. Other Yosef Khan, remembering all this is the same people sitting together. Another question I think. Garrett Tosha, no, she got the hours. So that's what we see that. Can a Garrett Tosha go ahead? I was saying, just before it's like the Chazal will make the just see what instead of showing us this one. We'll put structure in a way to make us succeed. That a moment shall hold wants us to succeed. Sometimes people have a very sweet view of a Hashgacha, a very sweet view of halacha. That Hashgacha is waiting for us to mess up. It's all waiting for us to mess up. Let me suffer the punishment that doesn't give for us the truth. The emotion wants our success more than we want our success. Chazal wants our success more than we want our success. All of the halachas, all of the rules, the strictures, and the punishments are only there to put us on a path to success, not to smack us down when we go ahead and we make a mistake. But again, Baruch understood what we need in order to be successful. Chazal understood what we need in order to be successful. And when they need to relax the standards to make us successful, they do it. It's incredible. They do it. When success is accomplished through relaxing of standards, Chazal no greater opportunity to do it. That's this world of the next world. In this world, Chazal counts the people on successes. Another question. Other Yosef Karvar. Ger Toshav, Mar Sheba Dogs, to a strange teacher. Can a Ger Toshav go ahead and abolish or negate idolatry? Remember again, an apple has the ability to negate his idolatry, thereby deconditioning it from its status of theological significance. So Ger Toshav, once again, what is a Ger Toshav? Well, we're going to see this in the full discussion of Ger Toshav. Rashi points out here in the top of the daf, Ger Toshav, Eino Ovid Avodas. Ultimately, again, he doesn't worship idolatry. But again, he's like an apple with everything else except he doesn't worship God. It's a principle. And he believes in the Sharp. He believes in God. He doesn't worship idolatry. But in every other respect, he's a man. Does such a person have the ability to shape idolatry, to negate idolatry? Somewhere it says, on one hand, the Kalach Mevat the Lord Kalach Mevat. We say, only one who worships idolatry can decommission idolatry. Or do not hold over Minei Mevat al Ha'ai Minei. Maybe that's what we say like this. Anyone who's going to call a Minei, if you're in the parsha of an apple, then you can go ahead and this guy is in the parsha. It's not Jewish. It's not Jewish. So because it's not Jewish, he's in the parsha of an apple. So because of that, even though Baruch Hashem, he himself doesn't worship idolatry, but he has the Torah to go ahead. He gave it. That's only rule that so I think that's what this stand like the Kalach Mevat the Lord Kalach. That says that only someone who worships it can negate it. But someone who doesn't worship idolatry cannot negate idolatry. Therefore, the Ger Toshav doesn't have the ability to negate idolatry. This is basically so went ahead and found idolatry in the marketplace. That's in the marketplace. What's up? Actual Bosnia. So what's it saying? Remember again. So let's say, Mark, listen to this case. I'm walking in the shop, walking in the marketplace. I see an old idol sitting there. If I lift it up, that's powerless, right? Because I'm not acquired it. And once it's been acquired by a Jew, essentially can't be decommissioned. So what do? Actual Bosnia. So before I think about it. Over the Ovid Kochav and Kumedak, I can pull over an apple. Pull over an apple and see if the apple is and you need to negate this idolatry, decommission it, right? Theological decommission. So go ahead and engage in theological decommission that doesn't work. I don't think it's permitted. However, again, in the Shabbat Saliyogo, ain't no only other but again, if I take it out, right? If I take possession of it, at that point it cannot be decommissioned. They should know only to cover the for Avodas Shalom, the Shafaleh. Living God, having that one, decommission is Avodah Zarah. Or the other is rather of the same. Being of God, being shaken God. Whether he worships it or he doesn't worship it. Might of God and might be of what does it mean to work? What does it mean that whether he worships it or doesn't worship it? If you want to say that then Hayu Shalom Shafar, we already said before that an apple has the ability to theologically decommission his avodah zarah, the avodah zarah of his friend. And a lot of the Ovikotah, a lot of the Ovikotah, right? Ultimately, again, Ovda means an actual apple. My shitting of what does it mean? Non-worshiper, Ger Toshav. So he was able to go ahead and decommission both an actual Ger Toshav no, Ger Toshav no Levato. Let me see from here that a Ger Toshav has the ability to be Levato, ultimately to theologically decommission Avodah Zarah. Incredible. Which the Lord says, no. The Odom Able of God, rather, Sukkai will be the only person who decommission an actual idol worship of himself. I did the Kanye, I knew Shalom Shafan. He said they already said that. Then the price is redone. Because they already said that people had a definition. His Abba was and his friend's Abba was Gemara says, Reisha's to this. Two different cases. Reisha, Zeh, Zeh, Or, Zeh, Marcus. Reisha's teaching like this. If you have two operas, right? And both worship Baal, but both worship Marcus. Obviously, again, Akram 1 can negate his idol and his friend's idol. And Akram 2 can negate his idol and his friend's idol. Seifa, Zeh, Or, his idol. Oh. Seifa teaches something different. Let's see, one who worships Marcus and one who worships Baal. That's the analogy over here. And Akram can worship an idolatry even if he doesn't worship. So let's say, number one, an Akram can negate his own idolatry. Good. Number two, an Akram can negate his friend's idol if they worship the same idolatry. And halacha number three is an Akram can negate his friend's idolatry even if he worships a different thing. Incredible. Incredible. So the Gemara says, but again, no raya about a ger tosha. Right? So when it comes to a ger tosha, we still like the Zalgar Shabbat. Can a ger tosha, which is a Gentile who repudiated idolatry, can he be without love? That was thought of this. What's the basis of ger tosha? Is a ger tosha? What's a ger tosha? Tosha kiva. So now we're getting to the definition. What is the definition of a ger tosha? Said Tosha kiva love the kiva freedom. Meir says it's any Akram who is accepted of himself in front of three Chaver. Chaver being discovered as the Chaver one of these. Someone is careful. If she is careful about it. So in this context, for Hashem's it just means that in front of a base. Any time a Akram comes in front of a base, and he repudiates idolatry, that's a get. That's a get Tosha. Good. That's right there. From say, Tosha Kiba Allah Sheva Mitzvos, and then Tosha Kiba Allah Sheva Mitzvos Shekhirim. From say, a get Tosha is any Gentile who has accepted upon himself the 7 laws by God. Don't seem to acquire a base. That's a get Tosha. Sheva Mitzvos Shekhirim. The next one is hearing only able to follow the get Tosha. Not true. Hearing saying. Neither of these definitions satisfy the definition of ger tosha. What is a ger tosha? And what is a ger tosha? Zeh ger ofel levelos shekibel alav lekayim kol mitzvos hamuros katorah chutz me'isser levelos. So this is very interesting. What is the definition of the ger tosha? The ger tosha is someone ultimately again who eats that kosher levelos, but he has accepted upon himself the rest of the mitzvahs in the Torah. It's a pretty shocking definition. So let's say, really my clothes out there, definition of ger tosha. Rabbi Meir, he accepted upon himself in front of the base of that kosher idolatry. Finally, he accepted upon himself Shem Yisrael Noah. Chayrin, he has accepted upon himself all of the mitzvahs except the laws of conscience. He's allowed to eat that kosher. Incredible, incredible. But the Raisa goes on, Yachad in Etzler, Yain, that the air shading will be solid. What's the halacha is you can deposit water with a ger tosha, right? You can even give him for a little bit of time. You can leave with him wine for a short amount of time, but you can't deposit with him wine for a long time. What's the reason? What are we concerned about here? What are we concerned about here? We're concerned ultimately again that Rashi says on Rashi says over there. We saw my gift of Anusa actually that he did for us. And even the Allah, they're not going to ask us. They're not going to come to us in the Allah based on like Hashem. Even the Eva Allah, but everybody will be about Allah. You say, it's my Allah, like an Allah. So ultimately, the present one with him for sure amount of time. That's for a long amount of time because they're concerned that these swap out some juice wine for his own. Okay. And this is true even in the city where the majority of the inhabitants are Jews. So as I said, Allah the ger tosha, you could leave with your wine for a short amount of time, not for a long time. Again, we're not concerned with yayin nesek. Why are we not concerned with yayin nesek? Because he's repudiated idolatry. Right? But we are concerned that over time longer amount of time, he may switch his wine for the Jews. So for a short amount of time, it's mutter. For a long amount of time, it's shmano kiyema. So the Gemara says, and his oil is like his wine. What is that? Shmano kiyes, and I thought shemen nika havi yayin. Is that what we want with his oil? Oil can't be into that. Ella yeno kishmano. Interesting enough, rather what it means is like this. That Allah from the saw that ultimately again his wine, his wine is like his wine, just like it's very interesting. And just like his oil is permitted, so to ultimately again is his wine. Now look at Rashi just a moment. Rashi Shmono mi hamidayes alyeno mutimana kishmono kodu shotu Hashem ba'afilotai avabishtia asim. But what does it mean that his oil is like that? Excuse me. That his wine is like his oil. That the same way that you get enough from his oil, you can get enough from his wine. You can't drink the wine that you get from Shav, and ultimately you can get enough from his wine. The shar kol davar ultimately meant for every other thing. He's like an apple. Shimon Omer, Yeno Yayin. Yes. Va'amilei motor. Shimon says his wine is like Yayin Nesach. But others say ultimately again, when it's motor, ultimately again for consumption, for shtia. So actually pause over here. We'll pick up in the answer. Actually, let's finish. Let's finish this as well. What do you see from here? We see from here that is like an akum regarding every other matter. Ultimately, again, what does it mean when we say that a Toshav is like an akum for everything else? What does that mean? To which the Gemara says, love from the back of avodas kochadim ki avodas kochadim. So doesn't that mean, because we're again, how did this whole thing that Ger Toshav gets started? Got started was we tried to figure out, doesn't Ger Toshav have the ability to negate idolatry, to theologically decommission idolatry? So now we just got finished saying that in this respect, Ger Toshav is unique, but in every other matter, he's like an akum. Doesn't that mean that just as an akum can theologically decommission and negate that avodah, so too can a Ger Toshav. So too can a Ger Toshav. For which the Gemara says, no, retain Rishus in the Lato Rishus. No, actually, it means something else. It means actually Rosh Hashanah. What does it mean Rosh Hashanah? Because I watched this kid Samuel. He's so Lord. The Shamer Shabbos Rishus. What's that? If you have multiple homes that open up into a courtyard, you cannot carry from a home into that courtyard without an eat. Right? Eruv essentially means we collect food from all of the inhabitants of the chutzner. They join together, and that joint food makes it into the domain of one home. And if we carry from the home into the chutzner into the home. Now the halacha is, if you have a Jew who did not join into the chutzner, he could yield his rights. Let's say if Shabbos started, forgot to participate in the Eruv, he can yield his rights to the other members of the chutzner. If there is a non-Jewish resident, the halacha is you have to rent his rights from him. You cannot simply yield his rights, you have to rent his rights from him. He's watches. The Gemara says, Yisrael Lemmer, Yishamar Shabbos of the Shep, without the Rishus. Ultimately, again, if you have the Yisrael Lemmer, which unfortunately again is the Yisrael to an apostate. So as long as externally he's not an apostate, right? As long as externally, like right, publicly keep Shabbos, privately he doesn't keep Shabbos, and at least he publicly keep Shabbos, and that's the halacha. Without the Rishus, all we need to do if he didn't participate in the Eruv, he just needs to essentially yield his rights to someone else in the chutzner. Okay. Shem Shabbos Shabbos of the Shop, in without the Rishus, but again, if he publicly violates Shabbos, then essentially it's like an if he's like an apple, then it's not enough for him to yield his rights in the chutzner to the other residents. Rather, you have to rent his rights from him. Yisrael, no sin Rishus from the Rishus. Right? Yisrael ultimately again has the ability to go ahead and yield his right, give up his rights, or give over his rights to the other residents. Ultimately, you have to rent. you have to rent. So therefore, again, the Gemara is saying that when you say, so we'll say just let's finish off Ketzad, Omer Lo, we'll say how does the for example, yield his rights or give over his rights to Ketzad? Omer Lo, Rishusi Kinuya Lecha. I hereby give over my rights. I bequeath my rights in the Chazar to you, or Rishusi Mivutelas Lecha, or my rights are negated to you. Ultimately, it works for the purposes that the Jewish residents acquire the rights of this non-participatory Jew who participates in the agreement. They start with this custom. So just in general, about Erev Chatziros, again, you need the participation of all the Jewish residents. In general, if you have a Jewish resident who did not participate, even on Shabbos, he could yield his rights, or be Mevat, or just simply negate his ownership rights in the Chatzar that allows everyone else to utilize the Chatzar. Even if he's a Yisrael Mullah, as long as publicly he comes across as Jewish, ultimately, again, he could yield, or he could go ahead and bequeath. By Akum, you have to go ahead and acquire his rights. And a Yisrael Mullah, who is publicly a Mullah, is treated like a full circle. Therefore, when we said before that a Ger Toshav ultimately, again, is treated like an uncle for all other things, means that if you live in a Chatzar with a Ger Toshav, and you are choosing the Chatzar want to make an Erev Chatziros, they must rent space, they must rent the rights, ultimately, again, of the Ger Toshav as well. Now, whether or not the Ger Toshav could actually run the Beit HaMitzvah, the Meretz Hashem will say, you will see it tomorrow's daf. Shmeh everyone, what a daf, what an incredible experience such as for all of you. Wishing you I will say a great sponsorship to with all of you this morning. Begin by thanking all of our sponsors for this morning's share. To thank our annual Talmud Torah sponsor, Tilsim Shal Haber Yisrael, dedicating all the Sherman Drushos this year as a Swiss from Soros Tabos for Am Yisrael. Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Av, Abba Avinu, Nicole, Stephen Randy Drazen, in honor of their parents, Israel Drazen, Dina Drazen, and Lee Rosenzweig in memory of Stanley Rosenzweig of the Bracha. Our week of learning sponsors, Dr. Aggie Faith Wolf, promotion of the yard site of Dr. Wolf's father Cyrus Wolf, Shalom Ben Tzvi Pershins of the Bracha, Nathan and Beth Adler in memory of their father Ben Adler, Father Baruch Mordechai Ben Moreno Ramos. The only sponsors for today, Jerry Applebaum in memory of his beloved mother Rosalind Applebaum, Rachel Bas Belar. All the Mishnah the families in the form of all those who need refuge together, comfortable days, Baruch Hashem, all of our hostages, Shalom and Bukharov, and our holy soldiers to be successful in the fall of our Savior. From us with that, let us begin. Today's daf is Samach Dalet 64. Really incredible daf ahead of us. Today we are picking up from Samach Gimel on the days 63b, and we are picking up 2, 4, 6, 7 lines up from the bottom. So Rav Nachman Ula Ta'avini Bar Papi. So again, Rav Nachman Ula Ta'avini Bar Papi. That's Rabbi Ami Gabai. Rabbi Ami was sitting with them. Yosef, the Kabbalah, my boy, he asked the following question. Listen to the fascinating question. Safra Lishbar B'Yayin Nesach. What is the halacha if an Akum hires a Jew to smash barrels of Yayin Nesach? Right? So, okay, rather than this, Akum comes over to Ruben. So, Ruben, I'm going to pay you $50 an hour. Do me a favor, smash these barrels of Yayin Nesach. Mahu, what is the halacha? Is the Jew allowed to receive, to accept, to keep the wages from this halacha? So remember again, in yesterday's daf, we were dealing with the concept of funds or income that is generated from what may or may not be permitted activity, or dealing with items that themselves may be asur b'hanah. So here, the Akum is asking me to do something with Yayin Nesach, but he's asking me to destroy Yayin Nesach. He's going to pay me for it. So am I allowed to keep those proceeds? The Gemara says, "No, what's the halacha? Me, I'm here to keep the lots of people more awesome." So this is very interesting. On one hand, I want the existence of the Now, why do I want to be Because if the barrels were to break on their own, I would lose the opportunity to break them and I lose the barrels. So interestingly enough, I want the existence of the INS. So because I want it, therefore, again, maybe that makes the process. Look at Rashi, which is the moment. We have Rinan Kiva, 3 lines up in the bottom of Rashi. The Israel said, "Let's say the Kiva Shafari say, Jew actually wants the existence of these barrels. Shalom Yishtabru Akshavei Lehem. I don't want to Ruvain doesn't want them to break on their own. Achi Shabra Boom, so do we say that since the Jew actually wants, and this is interesting to think about this, right? The Jew actually wants the Yayin Nesach to remain in existence. I don't want it, right? I don't want it to break on its own. So therefore, maybe that's considered to be proceeds from Yayin Nesach. And therefore, again, it's awesome. On the other hand, this is the destruction of Yayin Nesach, destruction of Avodah Zarah. This is a good thing. This is a good thing. Sure, one vows to remain in existence. Again, ultimately, to destroy Avodah Zarah is a good thing, and therefore the proceeds ultimately again should be headed. Fascinating shayla. Hold on. So Nachman says, Yishkar v'Torah v'Bracha. Nachman says, no, take the job, Jew, take the job, get the money, and Torah Bracha, you should be blessed. You have the opportunity to go and do that Avodah Zarah. That is a good thing. Take the money and go. So let me say, let's bring a proof to this. Ain't Ocean in the Obey So let's say again, an apple plants July, right? July is forbidden to so wheat, we had session just 2 days ago. Wheat and let's say, for example, wheat and grapevines. That's the hypothetical example, any forbidden mixture. So if an Obey Kohanim is planting July, the Jew can't go ahead and assist him in the planting. Ocean is like home. You know, the weeds will seep off in the dirt. You can't do that. How about sound of valid? 64. What can I do? I can uproot, right? I can uproot killing. That I am allowed to do. Rashi about Ogrin, Flash, Lichon, Eagle, Ba'athon, of the road to the Kimosh, Yaakov, Melin, and Shakman. Let's say Yaakov hires me and it's listen, silver. To me, if they very planted July, now again, but let's say again, he asks me to uproot it. I am allowed to do that even though he didn't get paid for working with Kilai, right? And I want the existence of the Kilai. Because if he finds someone uprooted on their own, I lose out on my myself. So the Gemara says. So it appears from here this is the support of Nachman. Because Nachman says you are allowed to go ahead and benefit financially from a forbidden item when that benefit ultimately again results in the destruction of the item, even though you by definition want the continued existence of the prohibited item because you want to be the one who destroys it so you can get paid for it as opposed to being destroyed on its own. So there's a Savrua, second line from the top 64. Savrua Hamari, who's a baby, it's Rabbi Akiva, Amar, and the Kaim B'Kilayim work. It's very interesting. Rabbi Akiva holds us in general. Not only is there a prohibition to plant Kilayim, not only is there a prohibition to go ahead and facilitate the growth of Kilayim, but you can't do anything that sustains it. For example, Rashi points out over here that let's say someone was planted the Kilayim, right? Up the Kilayim, and the put up a fence around the Kilayim. Now the Akiva says, also, why? Putting up a fence, by definition, is part of the sustaining of Kilayim. The fence has nothing to do with the actual plant itself. Nevertheless, it is going to be also saying very well. And Nefesh means eating. Mechaka means covering the seeds of the work. So Nefesh on the front of the Kilayim. Look at, you get off the spike because again, that's the much. Because there you're actively and directly participating in the Kilayim. Kiva says, and the Kiva says, anything to sustain the Kilayim. For example, put up the fence around the Kilayim, that's going to be problematic as well. So versus my time, where's your Kiva? Thus it says, do not plant Kilayim in your field. In the Arizona, and we know the prohibition of planting. The Kayim is how do I know that I'm not even allowed to do something to sustain the actual growth itself? Like even like putting up the plants. And the Lomar, go Kilayim. I suppose say so. It's interesting here. You are making a little bit of a play on words. A little bit of a play on words. So again, the word is actually kind of slicing the house like go Kilayim. You can't do anything that ultimately, again, enables the existence of Kilayim, even if it's not directly involved with the actual plant itself, but just something that sustains it, that's going to be Aswat Yama. Ilu, Gemara says, Ve'ilu, the Mi'ute Tifla Shari. But ultimately, interestingly enough, even according to the Akiva, already according to the Akiva, the prohibition ultimately is doing something that sustains the Kilayim. What about if somebody's willing to pay me to uproot the Kilayim? So the Pashtos, it sounds like that is going to be totally interesting. Gemara says, not necessarily. No, it doesn't have to be that mean that rather Rabbanon is a thing. Is this Rabbanon? It's Rabbanon. Rabbanon might hear you open. I feel like you mean Ami Shakur. No, it's not true. According to the Rabbanon, if it's Rabbanon, Rabbanon can hold people up a fence, right? Because Rabbanon, only Rabbi Akiva, Rabbanon, nothing you can do plant it or actively do something that facilitates the growth of the plant itself. Some type of like supporting activity, like putting up a fence they hold is mutter. So if putting up a fence is mutter, you can get paid for that. But certainly, again, you can get paid for uprooting the plant. So I'm sure that's not going to be that. To which the Gemara says, Achamat, is very interesting. What's the case over here? The Ka'avid Bechina. Oh, interesting. Where ultimately, again, I am uprooting the Kilayim for free. Yaakov asked me to do it, and I'm doing it for free. So what's the problem? Ultimately, Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion that Allah so you are not allowed to do a favor for him. Right? We actually had this in the beginning of our Lo Sefamim. So Allah thought as well, Lo Sefamim. Right? Doesn't mean compliment them, don't give them a stima. Rabbi Yehuda says, don't do that mistake, you can't work for free. You can't do something for an applicant for free. You still can't do it. So which the Gemara says, Mishmon Rabbi Akiva, la. Now, the fact that you're setting this up for Rabbi Yehuda, sounds like that according to Rabbi Akiva, so not be permitted. Rabbi Yehuda, Asra Litin and Maklasima, about the Neute Tifla Shakir. The Gemara says, no. Rabbi Yehuda says it's true. You can't do a favor. You can't do a favor for him. But to do something to put up on the Zara, that's absolutely permitted. That's a proof. That's an objective benefit. I have Rabbi Akiva Nami. I thought of Rabbi Akiva. I'm Rabbi Akiva. I'm kind of Kilayim look at. Take Tifla Shakri. You say something according to Rabbi Akiva. Even though Rabbi Akiva was a more expensive, approach to the prohibition of Kilayim. They're not only can you not plant it, not only can you not see the actual planting itself, but you can't even put up a fence to sustain it. Even Rabbi Akiva would agree to uproot Kilayim, to get rid of Isser, to get rid of something prohibited, is absolutely permitted, and you can get paid for that from the to which the Gemara says, there is nothing else to go ahead and discuss now. That's good. This phrase, this is like the Talmud equivalent of like a mic drop. Sulomi. That's it. We're done. There's nothing more to discuss with this. So it's very interesting. But therefore, what this means is ultimately, let's go full circle. How did we start with this? This all started by the case of an Afghan wants to break his barrels of yayin nesa. He asks me, he wants to hire me, a Jew, to go and break. He's willing to pay me $50 a barrel. Great, so am I allowed to do it or not? So remember, on one hand, you could say no, because therefore that means I want the continued existence of the yayin nesa. I'm benefiting from the whole result. On the other hand, I'm destroying the whole result. But Nachman said, do it and cover Allah. If it involves the destruction of a Zara, or for that matter, a prohibited item, even though, yes, I do want the continued existence of the INS, so I get it. I don't want it to break on its own. I want to break it. I don't want the plant to be uprooted on its own. I want to uproot it. But nevertheless, I am permitted to go ahead and do these activities, get paid for them, keep the proceeds, because the destruction of Zara, the destruction of prohibition, ultimately is a good thing. Says you get paid and Tava Allah. Incredible. I must say it really is such an interesting idea because kind of like part of Western society mindset is like live and let live. And that is important as members of society, just as a general approach to living in a greater society, we should take an approach to living. Yes, it's not our religion to be honest, nor is it the place to stand in judgment of everyone else's lifestyle choices or everything else. live and let live. To a certain degree, that has to be our approach to society. On the other hand, it's also teaching us this idea that evil shouldn't be allowed to take root within our world. And when there's something that is evil, it has to be evil. When there's something that is evil, it has to be broken. When there's something that is evil, it has to be smashed. It has to be destroyed. Because if you let evil take root, then it spreads and unfortunately becomes the norm. Sometimes then those lines between good and evil ultimately again become incredibly blurry. That's why the Matthew uses this question of yes, destroy the INS and tunnel Allah. Ridding the world of evil is a bracha. That is a bracha. It's not easy. It's not easy. And it's fraught with incredible challenges. We see this for what we think about. It's such an incredible thing. But you think about what the nation of Israel, what the state of Israel is doing. It's really unbelievable. And sometimes you would think that like the world would just line up, cross, right, just clap. Because we're doing the world dirty. And yet again, it's hard because often the world can't see what's evil, what's good, can't see who's right and who's wrong. But the Mishnah tells us sometimes there is a way to live, and sometimes the Mishnah says, Yishbar, Tabaraka. Sometimes you have to identify the evil, you have to break it, you have to smash it, you have to destroy it, and if you do it, Tabaraka. Ultimately, the process is difficult, the process is cruel, the process is overwhelming. But ultimately, when you get to the other side of the process, that's what it's really about. The Gemara goes like, when Hadri Yasvi, so again, the same cover was sitting, and the Ethno Ugashi was Hadri Yasvi, it comes out like, may have us from the other So let's say this is very interesting. What happens if an Apple sells his item? So Apple sells his item and he has now sold for $4,000, $1,000. Does that money in the hand of the Apple take on the same identity as the Apple who sold it? No. Mitofes has done that the other way. Does it take on the identity, right? Does it take on the identity of the idolatry or not? So I'm going to do nothing. So it's very interesting. So ultimately, you're going to nothing. So these factors are now from the other way. So nothing says I think it's mental. I think it's mental, right? It's like nothing sells his item and he has that money. That money does not retain idolatrous identity, but rather that money is just mundane. Listen to this. There's a lot of these. I know that the hospital made the law. These people came up with the law. However, Zero Zidina Hamad the Seal Scouts is fascinating. So that was what it was. These people came up with the law. And they wanted to convert. The Rabbi told them, guys, before you convert, here's what you need to do. Sell off all of your idolatry, right? Sell off all of your idolatry, and then you have the cash. After you do that, then you convert. And what's the name of Rashi? Rashi says over here, if you look at Rashi, look at the Suez Skyru, all this Skyru, the African Skyru, Asru, because remember, if they convert and still hold your idolatry, then that's idolatry by Jew. Idolatry by Jew, number one, can never be gay, right? Can never have this identity. They can't get enough. So it tells them instead, before, while you're still Gentiles, sell it off. You have the money, then you can convert, and the money is permitted. What do you see from there? Obviously, you see from there that Allah on one side sells his idol, that cash is permitted. So the Gemara says, my time, you shouldn't become sober, then you have let's go home, you have a different proceeds of sale of idolatry. Hands of the ultimately is permitted. I have to do a shame, I see the kingdom that needs to be made. God, I want you got to see since they're in the process of conversion, obviously they're negating the theological significance of the idol converted. So nothing to be the back of his results. Maybe that's why the proceeds are. Rabbi Gemara says, here's the proof. You saw Shai and Moshe Rabbi Rothschild, I lent $1,000. So what happened? So the Apple went and sold his item, right? And brought me the proceeds from the sale. Or Yain Nesach, or same case, I went ahead and I lent $1,000. He sold his Yain Nesach, and then he brought me the proceeds of the sale. What's the halacha? Mutter. Ultimately, again, it's mutter. Very interesting. The Gemara says. Now, however, watch this. Let's say the same case, right? The $100,000 case. So if they wait here, I'm just going to sell my oil. I only got the proceeds. So I'm going to sell my yayin nesach. I'm got the proceeds. In that case, it's awesome. See, interesting. Case number one, same case. I lend $100,000. Case number one, he goes off, sells his yayin, goes off, sells his yayin nesach. I have no idea what he's doing. He brings me the proceeds, pays back the debt. Case number two, same thing. I lent him $1,000. He says, I want to pay you back. Give me a couple of hours. I got to sell my idol. I got to sell my Nessa. Then he comes back with the proceeds. The proceeds are for dividend. I exactly give my So what's the distinction? I want to say, what's difference in these two cases? Sheshes, safe from the shunta, Abilek Kibotz. So this is very interesting. So now this seems to circle back a little bit to the previous sugya. Here's the difference. The second case, where the applicant says, wait here while I sell my item, or while I go ahead and sell my wine, I want the continued existence of it. I don't want the continued existence of the wine. Why? Because I want to get paid. So because I want it, therefore Sheshes posits the proceeds of hustle. What's that mean? If he wrote it, the kiyum I got it. That's what we just said before, but that's what the language will say. When you want the continued existence, but I'm not doing anything to further the existence. So yes, of course, I want the continued existence of that idol until the apple says it. So I want money. I want the continued existence of the Yain Nesef because I want my money. But I'm not doing anything to facilitate the continued existence of these particular items. Why should it be us? But none. Here, this is where it's fun tonight. Here, the other problem. Yarshu Akiyah Public Place. This is very interesting. You have two brothers. One converted, and one they're both they're brothers. One converted and one split. So brother Ger, brother Uncle. And what happened? Their father died. Their father died. They inherited their father. So they want to split the estate. In the estate is idolatry, and let's say permitted items. So Ger, no, from Akar, so brother Ger can say to brother Uncle, so, brother, you take all the idolatry stuff. You take all the idols stuff. And I'll take the money and layers. You can do that. Then the Shabbat, and that's proven. However, the Shabbat is just like us. Obviously, all of this presupposes that the bear has not yet actively taken possession of the INS or idols. Obviously, once that happens, there's no more recourse. Right? But there's recourse. You know, see this. You can get back on sorry. It's much more tougher. Once the Jew already owns it, he carries it. So as long as brother Ger has not yet taken possession of these items, there's no problem dividing up the estate. However, if brother Ger already took possession, then it's possible. So what's the ultimate here? What do you see from there? Now in this case, brother Ger wants to continue the existence of the idolatry of the Yahuwah. But he's not doing anything active to promote his continued existence, and therefore it's mutter. So what's the problem? What's the case over this Mishnah? This Mishnah is talking about an idol that's made of gold or silver. Even if it breaks, it's still valuable. So therefore, again, brother there doesn't actually care because it remains with its holistic enough. Even if it breaks, who cares? It still has value. Which the Gemara says that's called that works fine for an idol. How would you explain the case then of Yair? The Pharaoh's Hadrian. So what's the case? Adrianic. So apparently, Rashi points out that here, Adrianic also means like absorbing. Therefore, we put wine in there because the word absorb to a degree that you can take a shard of that where put it in water and reconstitute it. In that case, also, brother here doesn't care the casks great. Either way, the value is still retained. Which the rest of the one saying, even if that's so, even if brother Gail doesn't care about the package of ways, right? But he does care whether or not he can still make the laws, so he still wants to have a continued existence. Yerushas Hager Kamach, don't bring a riot in this case. You're bringing a riot in the case of the inheritance of Hager. No, Shani Yerushas Hager, Dakilu Barata. The rabbis will make them by the Yerusha. Whereas normally the Gemara says perhaps this case should be problematic. But halacha l'maisa, Chazal will make them by the Yerusha. As long as the ger has not yet actively taken possession of the Nesach or the idols, he is absolutely permitted to work this out with his brother. Right? And so you take this, you take the prohibited stuff, I'll take the prohibited stuff. Even though, yes, he wants to continue existence. Why? Why would they make him by a ger? That people are on Zera Shemen Yatsu. We are afraid that if the ger has to make a choice between his money, his Yerusha, and his religion, he will choose his money and choose his inheritance. People say that's not a knock on the ger. That's a reality of the religion. It's used before as well, for example, right? It's something that the Chazal said that in certain cases is theft. The thief doesn't always have to return that which he stole. Right? So the victim should accept back the stolen item in order to go out and facilitate the thief's truth. I'm afraid if the thief has to return everything, he's not going to much. It's difficult for people to engage in self-sacrifice when it comes to financial matters. Money is necessary, money is important. And as much as we say that, as long as you have your health, it's true. As long as you have your health, and you can pay your bills. Right? Because if you don't have money, it's just and not two religious challenges. There is a choice between religion and we're afraid that if he has to choose between halacha and ultimately again his Yerusha, he may be tempted to choose his Yerusha. Again, not because of because it's human nature. So if Chazal didn't want to put in that situation, therefore they would make by a ger, understanding that often in this kind of case, he didn't have a statement that's comprised of permitted items and permitted items, therefore allow him to keep the permitted items, give his brother the other. I'll say 100 days. Tanya Rachi writes that supports this. When is this so? Shir should in the case of Yerusha. Tavan Mishtad Fu Asr. But in the case, let's say the business partnership will be Asr. So you see from here that Chazal allowed certain things to happen in the context of Yerusha that they would not have normally allowed to occur in other contexts as well. Because you don't want to put the person in this in this precarious type of situation. Incredible. Remember again, all of this is the same group of Rabbanim sitting together. Another question that came up. Ger Tosha Nam Sheibad Va'avodas Kafir. So this is a very interesting case. Can a Ger Tosha go ahead? And I will say, just before we go on, this idea that Chazal will make go by the Ger, just so you understand the tremendous mitzvah of this. Halacha is structured in a way to make us succeed. That a Bono Shalom wants us to succeed. Some of these people have a very skewed view of HaKadosh a very skewed view of halacha. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu is waiting for us to mess up, so we can smack us down. He's not waiting for us to mess up, so we can levy some type of punishment on our business. That's a pretty clear tradition. The Moshe wants our success more than we want our success. Chazal wants our success more than we want our success. Look at the laws. Look at the restrictions. We want the punishments are in there to put us on a path to success, not to smack us down when we go ahead and make a mistake. But again, Trump understood what we need in order to be successful. Chazal understood what we need in order to be successful. And when they need to relax the standards to make us successful, they do it. It's incredible. They do it. When success is accomplished through relaxing of standards, Chazal do it. No greater accomplishment for this world. This world never gets right. This world, Chazal, constantly processes. Another question. Other Yosef from Ger Toshav, my shape my knowledge was very interesting. Can a Ger Toshav go ahead and abolish or negate idolatry? Remember what happened has the ability to negate his avodah thereby decommissioning it from its status of theological sanctity. So again, what is a ger? Now we're going to see this important definition of ger toshav. Rashi points out here on top of the daf, ger toshav eino ovid avodas. Ultimately, again, he doesn't worship idolatry. But again, he's like an apple with everything else except he doesn't worship idolatry. He believes in Hakadosh Baruch Hu. He believes in God. He doesn't worship idolatry. But in every other respect, he's a so does such a person have the ability to decommission idolatry, to negate idolatry? Gemara says, on one hand, the Chabad about the word Chabad, he says, only one who worships idolatry can decommission idolatry. Ultimate Chokava Minei Mubat al Ha'ai Bar Maybe not, or maybe say like this. Anyone who's what we call a barmineh, if you're in the parsha of an animal, then you can go ahead and this guy is in the parsha. He's not Jewish. He's not Jewish. So because he's not Jewish, he's in the parsha of an animal. So because of that, even though Baruch Hashem, he himself doesn't worship idolatry, but he has the koach to go ahead and negate it. I don't know who that is, so I'm going to answer that. This step out the halach, the battle of the halach. Says, well, only someone who worships it can negate it. But someone who doesn't worship idolatry cannot negate idolatry. Therefore, the ger toshav doesn't have the ability to negate idolatry. So this is basically this was something. So went ahead and found idolatry in the marketplace. Found in the marketplace. What's that about? Actually, a boss. So what's it saying? I'm remembering it. So let's say, right, listen to this case. I'm walking in the shop. I'm walking in the marketplace. I see a gold idol sitting there on the ground. If I lift it up, that's probably not right because they haven't covered it. And once it's been acquired by a Jew, essentially it can't be decommissioned. So what do I do? Actually, so before I pick it up, over the oven go have with that. I can pull over an apple, and then also effective. Pull over an apple and see if the apple. I need to negate this decommission. Right? Theological decommission. So go ahead and engage in theological decommission of this book. It's permitted. However, again, we should also be able but again, when I pick it up, I take possession of it. At that point, you cannot be decommission. Only for carbon mechanical avodas for shalom, shachavela. And every book of the apple, the decommission is only avodah or the avodah zarah as descent. Being of God, being she'en love. Whether he worships it or he doesn't worship it. Whether finally to of God, right? What does it mean? What does it mean? Whether he worships it or doesn't worship it. He labor. If you want to say that over time, then Hayu Shalom Shachar, we already said before that is something has the ability to decommission his evidence and the evidence of his friend. As a love of God over my shit in our love of the over right? Ultimately, again, of the means natural. My shit in love, what does it mean? Non-worshiper, who is able to go ahead and decommission both an actual and a ger toshav. None at all. Ger toshav, none at all. What we see here, that a ger toshav has the ability to be without ultimately to watch the decommission of the desire. Incredible. Which the Gemara says, no. The only thing we're called rather, will be the only person who can decommission of desire is an actual idol worship. I think to cover it, and we shall not shut he said that, and the prices we got. So he said that it's going to be commission. Is that what he's at? It's for another. It says relations to this. Two different cases. Reisha, Zed, is Zed of Ha'ar, the Zed is Zed of Ha'ar. Reisha is teaching like this. If you have two apples, right, and both worship Ha'ar, both worship Marcus. So obviously, again, apple 1 can negate his idol and his friend's idol, and apple 2 can negate his idol and his friend's idol. Seifa, Zed of Ha'ar, is Zed. Let's see if one who worships Marcus and one who worships Baal. What's the novelty over here? And who worships an idolatry doesn't worship idolatry. we'll say, so we see how this can play. Number one, an apple can negate his own idolatry. Good. Number two, an apple can negate his friend's idol if they worship the same idolatry. And halacha number three is an apple can negate his friend's idolatry even if he worships different. Incredible. Something about ourselves. But again, no raya about a ger kosher. Right? So when it comes to a ger kosher, it's still like his elder shah. And a ger kosher, which is like a Gentile, who repudiated idolatry, and without love. So basically, ger kosher, basically ger kosher, what's a ger kosher? Moshe Kibbutz, so now we're getting more definition. What is the definition of a ger kosher? Says it's any apple who is accepted upon himself in front of three having. So in this context, the Rothschild just means you're doing on a base. Anytime an apple comes in front of a base and he repeats idolatry, that's a good kosher. That's a good kosher. Good. That's right there. Come say, Moshe Kibbutz Allah Sheva Mitzvos Moshe Kibbutz Allah Sheva Mitzvos Some say a good kosher is any Gentile who has accepted upon himself the 7 moral life. That's a good kosher. Shem Mitzvos B'nei the next even though all the isn't saying what these definitions satisfy the definition of what is a good kosher? They're open leaders should keep up above the many mitzvahs and rules for Torah, plus make a certain what is the definition of a good kosher? A good kosher is someone ultimately again that kosher is famous, and he has accepted it for himself. The rest of the mitzvahs pretty shocking definition. It was like really not good definition of good kosher. Rabbi Meir, he accepted it for himself in front of the reason that kosher idolatry. Chachamim, he accepted it for himself Shem Mitzvah. Chayrim, he has accepted it for himself all of the mitzvahs except the ones. He's not a kosher. Incredible. The rest goes on. Yachad in Etzla. Yain, what are the kids from here? So concerning ultimately again, Rashi says Rashi says he saw that if the Hanusa actually next to the was actually even the Allah will know that one asset. The mother will come to us in the Allah base of the Rashi. Even the Eva I know that I know by the Allah. He said it's not a war like a so ultimately the positive ones that get for sure. For a longer amount of time because there's a certain release or choose one that is called even in a city, the majority of the evidence are Jews. About mere affecting test or Yahin, with the air Shaluga or the Joseph Salaf must have been for sure. You could even go for sure. Not for a long time, get not to the Yahin, yes, far not to there, because repudiated idolatry. Right? But we are concerned that for a longer amount of time, today, which is one of the short amount of time is filtered, or long amount of time is Shmano, Yeva. Like Israel. What is that? Shmano is, and I felt Shemen, on the Yain, except for the oil can be Yingo, Shmano. Interesting, you are following the reasons like this. When I saw that it's that ultimately again is wine is like this oil, just like this oil is created. So to ultimately again is water. Look at that, just one of the guys and Daniel's Kunjamano, one of the shows I said that about the Shias. But what does it mean that this oil is like this? Or is like this oil? the same way that you can get Hagah from his oil, you can get Hagah from his blood. You can't drink the oil and get kosher, but ultimately you can get Hagah from his blood. The Shar Kol Dollar ultimately for every other thing, he is like a he's like an apple. Yeno, Yair. Shimon says his wine is like Yair Esach, and others say ultimately again, ultimately again for consumption. So that's because of actually that's telling us, not first thing telling us, what is it from here? By telling us, the sharp part of the body received from here, that happens like is like an apple regarding every other man. The mind of himself, ultimately, again, what does it mean when they say that Kosher is like an apple for everything else? What is that? It says, love in the back of a vessel of him, can have a vessel of him. So it doesn't matter, because we're again, how is supposed to be like a Kosher instead? That's why when you try to figure out, it doesn't get Kosher to be equivalent date idolatry. So now we just have to in this respect, again, first of all, every matter is like an doesn't that mean it just doesn't happen can theologically definition and negate that of child, so too can it get kosher. So who can it get kosher? In which the Gemara says, no, I'm not going to say no. Leaking the shus and the lack of the shus. No, actually, the Shadow Shabbat interfaces. You cannot carry from a home into a program without right? It essentially means to collect food from every evidence of they join together. That joint food makes it into the domain of one whole. Then right here, usually practice only to the cluster, plus into the whole. But the other thing is the other two who did not join into so he can yield his rights. Let's say shut his mouth. Jew of that he can yield his rights to the other members of the if there is a non-Jewish resident, the halacha is you have to rent his rights. You cannot simply yield his rights, you have to rent his rights from him. It's not just the Gemara says, Yisrael Momer, the Shara Shabbos of the Shok, and the Vato Rishus. Ultimately, again, if you have Yisrael Momer, which unfortunately again is Yisrael, an apostate. So as long as externally he's not an apostate, right? As long as externally, like right in publicly keep Shabbos, privately doesn't keep Shabbos, and at least publicly keep Shabbos, so that's the halacha. The Vato Rishus, one who didn't participate in the era, he just needs to essentially yield his rights to someone else in the process. She's the Shari Shabbos of the Shuk, in the Vato Rishus, but again, if you publicly violate Shabbos, then essentially is like if he's like an apple, then it's not enough for him to yield his rights and constitute. Rather, you have to rent his rights from him. Yisrael, no sin Rishus from the Vato Rishus. Right? Yisrael ultimately again has the ability to go ahead and yield his right, give up his rights, or give over his rights to the other residents, or the other Kohanim Achis, right? And ultimately, you have to rent. So therefore, again, the Gemara is saying that when we say, so it wasn't just cause to Kesad, or the law, we'll say how does he yield, for example, yield his rights to his rights to the or the law, we should see clearly of that. I hereby give over my rights. I my rights to the husband, or we should see the Nutella, or my rights are negated to you. Ultimately, it works for the purposes that every Jewish resident acquire the rights of this non-participatory Jew who participates in the they judge this person. Just in general, by Erev Tzilos, again, you need the participation of all Jewish residents. In general, if you have Jewish residents who do not participate, even on Shabbos, he can yield his rights, or just simply negate his ownership rights from as much as everyone else can rely on the even if he's Yisrael Buma, as long as publicly comes across as Jewish, ultimately again he can yield, or he can go ahead and by example, you have to go ahead and acquire his rights. And Yisrael Buma, who is we said before that their kosher ultimately again is treated like an apple. For all other things means you live in a chutzner with a ger kosher. You Jews in the chutzner want to make it made of zeros, they must rent space, they must rent the rights ultimately again of the ger kosher. Now, whether or not the ger kosher actually done the week of Zara, we'll say, you'll see it tomorrow's daf. Shpeh everyone, got a daf, an experience that is still with all of you. I will say a great sponsorship to you with all of you this morning. Begin by thanking all of our sponsors for this morning. Sure to thank our annual Commodore sponsor. Tilson Shopping is dedicating all the Sherman Brussels this year as a Swiss for the sales troubles for Israel. Commodore sponsors for the month of Av, Abdallah and Nicole, Stephen Randy Drazen in honor of their parents, Israel Drazen, Dina Drazen, and Moses Wagon, memory of the stamp of privilege Rosenzweig and Rafa. Our week of learning sponsors, Dr. Eddie Faith Wolf, promotion of the yard site of Dr. Wolf's father, Cyrus Wolf, Shalom, then Steve Oceans, Rafa, Nathan and Beth Adler in memory of their father, Ben Adler, Father Baruch Mordechai, Ben Moreno Ramos. Learning sponsors for today, Jerry Applebaum, in memory of his beloved mother, Rosemary Applebaum, Rachel Das, the families in the family, all those who live in Shalom, colorful ladies, Rochel, Shalom, and Harold, and all of these soldiers to be successful and follow on our safety. Let us begin. Today's death is Samach Khaled, 64. Really incredible time ahead of us. Today we are picking up from Samach Gimel on the base, 63b, and we are picking up 2, 4, 6, 7 ones up from the bottom. So we're not moving Ula, the Adini Barhab. So again, we're not moving Ula, Adini Barhab, bless you, Abiyah, Ami Babai. Here Ami is sitting with them at the University of Yosef, the Kabbalah, my bride. He asked the following question. Listen to the fascinating question. Safra Lishbar B'Yayin Nesa. What is the halacha if an Akram hires a Jew to smash barrels of Yayin Nesa? Right? So the Yayin Nesa Akram comes over to you and says, I'm going to pay you $50 an hour. Do me a favor, smash these barrels of Yayin Nesa. Mahu, what is the halacha? Is the Jew allowed to receive, to accept, to keep the wages from this work? Let's remember again, in yesterday's daf we were dealing with the concept of funds or income that is generated from what may or may not be permitted activity or dealing with items that themselves may be asur b'achmas. Here, the Akham is asking me to do something with Yayin Nesa, but he's asking me to destroy Yayin Nesa. It's going to take me for it. So am I allowed to keep those proceeds? The Gemara says, no, what's the halacha? Miyam keep the Lord speak to the Asurs. This is very interesting. On one hand, I want the existence of the Yayin Nesa. Why do I want the existence of the Yayin Nesa? If the barrels were to break on their own, I would lose the opportunity to break and I lose the Nesa. So again, interestingly enough, I want the existence of the Yayin Nesa. So because I want it, therefore, again, maybe that makes the process better. We'll give actually just a moment. Miyam Kiva, we don't have to learn in Rashi. Israel is a lot to be given to a say. You actually want the existence of these barrels. So when you start with Akshamay Lamb, I don't know, Ruben doesn't want him to break down. She Shabbat Ruben, he's not also. So then we say that since the Jew actually wants, well, this is interesting to think about this, right? The Jew actually wants the Yayin Nesa to remain in existence. I don't want it to break its own. So therefore, maybe that's considered the proceeds from the Yayin Nesa. Therefore, again, it's us. On the other hand, this is the destruction of the Yayin Nesa, destruction of all the Zohar. This is a good thing. This is a good thing. Sure, one else remains in existence. Again, ultimately, to describe all the Zohar is a good thing. therefore the proceeds ultimately again should be fascinating child. Hold on that. So Nachman says, Yishmar and Nachman says, no, take the job, take the job, get the money, and tell a brother you should be blessed. You have the opportunity to go and read out the Torah. That is a good thing. Take the money and go. So the Lord let me say it. Let's bring a proof to this, I guess. Ain't ocean in a big so let's say again, in Apple, that's July, right? July is forbidden. So we had such a just wheat and let's say for example wheat and grape context. That's the kind of genetic example. It's a forbidden mixture. So if an oblique proponent is planting today, I mean, I, the Jew, can't go ahead and assist in the overloads like at home. You know, you can use the seed company, the third, you can't do that. How about son of God? 64. What can I do? I can uproot, right? I can uproot that I am allowed to do. So Rashi, about Ogrin, Rashi, if only people back on the road to the Kumash, let's say prior to me, listen, so good. To me, if they write trying to fly, but let's say again, he asks me to uproot it. I am allowed to do that even though they get paid for working with Kilai, right? And I want the existence of it. Because if I tell I uproot it on my own, I lose out on myself. So the Gemara says. So it appears from here, this is discipline of nothing. But nothing says you are allowed to go ahead, benefit financially from a forbidden item, when that benefit ultimately again results in the destruction of even though you by definition want the continued existence of the forbidden item because you want to be the one who destroys it so you can get paid for it as opposed to being destroyed. So versus Savua, second line from the text 64. Savua from money, who's a thing? It's a Yankee, who's a Yankee? However, and the kind of July movement is very interesting. The Yankee holds as in their general. Not only is there a prohibition to plant, not only is there a prohibition to go ahead and facilitate the growth of July, but you can't even do anything that sustains it. So, for example, Rashi points out over here that let's say someone has planted the July, right? I can run July, and the Akim asks me to put up a fence around the July. Now, the Akiva says also, right? Putting up a fence by definition is part of the sustaining of July. Putting up a fence has nothing to do with the actual plant itself. Nevertheless, it is going to be also for the deciding here we go. Nefesh means eating. The felta means covering the seeds with bread. So nefesh on the top of the look at you get off this right because you're less than because there you're actively directly participating in the driving of bread. Kiva says not the kind. And the Kiva says even if you do anything to sustain it, for example, put up the fence around the Kedayim, that's going to be problematic as well. So there's a knife and other people. Where's the Kiva get that from? Self-cover Israel Kedayim. Plus it says, do not plant Kedayim in your field. Only Elazareh, I only know the prohibition of planting. The Kayim, how do I know that I'm not even allowed to do something to sustain the actual growth itself, and even like putting up the fence. I'm a little more low killing. Alright, so let's say so it's interesting over here. The words get a little bit of a play on words. A little play on words. So again, the words actually kind of slicing the plastic low killing. You can't do anything that ultimately again enables the existence of killing, even if it's not directly involved with the actual plant itself, but just something that sustains it. That's going to be aspect of Ilu. Gemara says the Ilu, the middle bit tifla shari. But ultimately, interestingly enough, even according to the Kiva, right according to the Kiva, the prohibition ultimately is to say that sustains the killing. What about if somebody's willing to pay me to uproot the killing? So the Pashtos, it sounds like that is going to be unbelievable. Interesting. Gemara says not necessarily. Well, it doesn't be that being a Rabbi. Rather, who's the thing? Is this Rabbanon? It's the Rabbanon. Rabbanon might be a open meaning that we shut. No, it's not true. According to the Rabbanon, this is Rabbanon. Rabbanon even put up a fence. Because Rabbanon only can be a kiva. Rabbanon can only can be planted or planted or actively do something that facilitates the growth of the plant itself. Some type of like supporting a fruit or putting a fence that is mutter. So if putting up a fence is mutter, you can get paid for that, but certainly again you can get paid for uprooting the fence. I'm sure that's not going to be. To which which the Gemara says, Hachamas Inam is ready to look at this here, to Ka'avit Bechina. Interesting. Where ultimately, again, I am uprooting the Karayim for free. Yaakov asked me to do it, and I'm doing it for free. So that's the problem. Ultimately, the Yehuda is of the opinion that Allah and you are not allowed to do a favor for him. Like we actually had this in the beginning of our days. Our Lo Sechanim, so all my quotes is what Lo Sechanim means. Right? Doesn't mean to compliment them or give them the Yehuda says, don't do nothing, you can't work for free. You can't do something for happen for free. Even if the free favor is the instruction of Allah Zarah, you still can't do it. So which the Gemara says, Yishma Rabbi Akiva, la. The fact that you're saying this something like Yehuda, says referring to Rabbi Akiva, so it might be permitted. Yehuda also leaking and Masina, about the Yehuda Tifla Shakir. Gemara says, no, according to Yehuda says it's true. You can't do a favor, so to speak, give a free gift. You can't do a favor for him. But to do something to Abdullah or Zala, that's absolutely permitted. That's an objective benefit. I am, as a Rabbi Akiva Nami. I thought that's Rabbi Akiva. I'm Rabbi Akiva. I'm a kind of Kilayim joke, yeah? When they would take Tifla Shakir, you say something to Rabbi Akiva. Even though Rabbi Akiva has a more expensive, approach to the condition of Kilayim, they're not only Kinyak planting, they're not only Kinyak the actual planting itself, but you can put a fence to sustain it. Even Rabbi Akiva would agree to uproot Kilayim, to get rid of Yisr, to get rid of prohibited, is absolutely permitted. And get paid for that from the auction. Which the Gemara says, the soon no there is nothing else to go ahead and discuss. It's good. This phrase is Sulamidi. This is like this equivalent of like a mic drop. Sulamidi. That's it, we're done. There's nothing more to discuss about this. So also it's very interesting. And therefore what this means is let's go full circle. How did we start with this? This all started by the case of an Akum wants to break his barrels of Yayin. He asks me, he wants to hire me, a Jew, to go and break his barrel to pay me $50 a barrel. Right? So am I allowed to do it or not? So remember, on one hand, you could say no, because therefore that. Said, do it and cover Allah. If it follows the instruction of the Zara, of that matter, a prohibited item, even though, yes, I do want the continued existence of the INS, so I get it. I don't want it to break on its own. I want to break it. I don't want the plant to be uprooted on its own. I want to uproot it. But nevertheless, I am permitted to go ahead and do these activities for them to keep the proceeds because the destruction of people, destruction of Zara, destruction of prohibition ultimately is a good thing. Says you get paid and cover Allah. Incredible. I must say, there really is such an interesting idea of kind of like how Western society mindset is, like live and let live. And that is important as members of society, just a general approach to living in a society. We should take an approach to living. Yes, it's not obligations against the words of ideas, nor is it the place to stand in judgment of everyone else's lifestyle choices or live and let live. That's to a certain degree, that has to be our approach to living in a society. On the other hand, it's also teaching us this idea that evil shouldn't be allowed to take the root within our world. And when there's something that is evil, it has to be uprooted. When there's something that is evil, it has to be broken. When there's something that is evil, it has to be smashed. It has to be destroyed. Because if you let evil take root, then it spreads, and unfortunately it becomes the norm. Sometimes then there's lines between good and evil, ultimately again become incredibly burning. That's why the Matthew uses discussion of, yes, destroy the INS and cover Allah love. Because ridding the world of evil is a bracha. That is a bracha. It's not easy. And it's fought with incredible challenges. We see this for what we think about such an incredible thing. if you think about what the nation of Israel, the state of Israel is doing, it's really and some of you think that like the world would just run course, right? Just flat. Because we're doing the world's dirty work. And yet, again, it's hard because often the world can't see what's evil, what's good, can't see who's right, who's wrong. But the Matthew tells us sometimes there is a little ugly, and sometimes the Matthew says, Yishbar, sometimes you have to identify evil, you have to break it, you have to smash it, you have to destroy it, and you have to do it. Ultimately, the process is difficult, the process is good, the process is long. But ultimately, when you get to the other side of the process, that's when it's good. The Gemara goes like this. But Chadu Yasvi, so again, the same Kabbalah is today. And they ask another question. Whereas Chadu Yasvi, if they come about like, the may have us come out of the Chadu. So that's it. This is very interesting. What happens if an Akum sells his idol? So Akum sells his idol and he has now something for $1,000. Does that money in the hand of the Akum take on the same identity as the idol who sold it himself? No. Litofes has done that the idol. Does it take on the identity, right? Does it take on the identity of the idolatry or not? So I'm going to So it's very interesting. So ultimately, that we're now let's come out of the having the tongue. So nothing says I think it's nothing. I think it's nothing. That means it's nothing sells his idol. And he has that money does not retain idolatrous identity, but rather that money is just mundane. Isn't it? So here's what nothing is proof. I know that the Asli made it out of our there were these people who came up with another word, Zero Zebino Kabadi is the Suez Scouts. It's fascinating. So that one's like this. There were these people who came up with Rabbi and what happened to us in Rabbi and he wanted to convert. Rabbi told them, guys, before you convert, here's what you need to do. Sell off all of your idolatry, right? Sell off all of your idolatry, and then you have the cash. After you do that, then you can listen and watch this. What's that over here? Rashi says over here, if you look at Rashi, look at the Suez Sky. All of these guys are unfortunately Sky will also link off one of those Because remember, if you convert this not only idolatry, then that's idolatry and idolatry. Idolatry and idolatry, number one, can never be gay. Right? Can never have this identity. They can't get enough. So it tells them instead before, while you're still Gentiles, sell it off. You have the money, then you can convert to the money is permitted. What do you see from there? Obviously, see from the halacha lifestyle sells his idol, that cash is permitted. So we can understand. My timer, we shouldn't become servers, then you have all this go home and down. They come to get the proceeds and sell idolatry hands of the ultimately permitted. And the Gil Shine, the freedom that I can relay, God I bought them. In that case, since they're in the process of conversion, obviously they're negating the theological significance of the idol burden. So an akum could be mevatel is avodah. So maybe that's why the proceeds are. Rabbi Gemara says, here's the proof. Yisrael Shay Moshe Rabbi Rothschild. Umachar avodas kochalim behemi. I lent Akum $1,000. So what happened? So the Akum went and sold his idol, right, and brought me the proceeds from the sale. Or Yain Nesach, or same case, I went ahead and I lent Akum $1,000. He sold his Yain Nesach, and then he brought me the proceeds of the sale. What's the halacha? Mutter. Ultimately, again, is mutter. Interesting. The Gemara says. Now, however, watch this. Hunting Yain Nesach Vahilacha. Unless the Yaakov sin case, what the Akum $1,000. So they pay you. To me, they were waiting here. I'm just going to sell my oil. I am exactly the process. I'm going to sell my Yain Nesach. I'm exactly the process. In that case, it's possible. See here, interesting. Case number one, same case. I lent Akum $1,000. Case number one, he goes off, sells his Yain, goes off, sells his Yain Nesach. I have no idea what he's doing. He brings me the proceeds, pays back the debt, move to case number two, same thing. I lent him $1,000. He says, I want to pay you back. Give me a couple of hours. I got to sell my idol. I got to sell my Yain Nesach. Then he comes back with the proceeds. The proceeds are prohibited. affected the moral, my generation, my generation. So what's the extension? I want to say, what's the extension? See from the Shunda, how we make it also. So this is very interesting. So now we see to circle back a little bit to the previous statement. Here's the difference. Second case, where the applicant says, wait here while I sell my item, or while I go ahead and sell my wine, I want to continue existence of the wine, right? Because I want to get paid. So because I want it, therefore Shesha is passes the proceeds for us. If you notice the human key agavim, that's what we just said before. That's what I was always saying. When you want to continue existence, but I'm not doing anything to further the existence. So yes, of course, I want to continue the existence of that idol until the apple sells it for a lot of money. I want to continue the existence of the Yainesa because I want my money. But I'm not doing anything to facilitate the continued existence of these forbidden items. Why should it be also? Shvatnan, Yer, Yer, Shiyershu Avian Avian. This is very interesting. You have two brothers. One converted and one they are both they're brothers. One converted and one converted. So brother there, brother Avian. And what happens? Their father died. Their father died. And they inherit their father. So they want to take the estate. In the estate is idolatry and Yainasa, and let's say forbidden items. So there, Yochomoma, Lo Tov, Akam, Omas, so after Yainasa, so brother there is saying to brother Akam, so brother Akam, you take all the idolatry stuff, you take all the Yainasa, and I'll take the money and Yainasa. You can do that. The Mishabal, and that's permitted. However, the Mishabal is just like you're asking, obviously. All of this presupposes that the bear has not yet actually taken possession of the ISF or items. Obviously, once that happens, there's no recourse. Right? But technically, there's no way to see this. You can get after to be a sorrow, but it's much more fun. Once the Jew already owns it, they're really very limited. So as long as brother Ger has not yet taken possession of these items, no problem. There's no problem dividing up the estate. However, if brother Ger already took possession, then it's also. So that's so ultimately, what do you see from there? Now in this case, brother Ger wants the continued existence of the idolatry of the Yain, but he's not doing anything active to promote his continued existence, and therefore it's mutter. It's mutter. So what's the problem? What's the case over here in this Mishnah? This Mishnah is talking about an idol that's made of gold or silver, which means that what, even if it breaks, it's still valuable. So therefore, again, brother Ger doesn't actually care if it remains in its full state or not. Even if it breaks, who cares? It still has value. First, says that's fine. That works fine for an idol. How would you explain the case then of Yain Nesef? The Phares Hadron. So this is very interesting. Adriatic so apparently, Rashi points out that here, Adriatic person, right, ultimately is very absorbent. Therefore, you put wine in there, you ultimately absorb it in wine to a degree that you can take a shard of that earthenware, put it in the water, and retest it to water. In that case, also, brother here doesn't care if that it has this great amount. It doesn't make a difference. Either way, the value is still retained. Which the Gemara said, even if that's so, even if brother Ger doesn't care about the fact that he gets paid, right? But he does care whether or not he gets stolen, so he still wants existence. The Rushas Hager Hamat bringing a riot. You're bringing a riot in the proof in the case of the inheritance of Ger. No, Shani Rushas Hager got Kilo Barak. Rabbis will make them by the Yerusha. Normally, the Gemara says perhaps this case should be problematic. But Halacha L'Maisa, Chazal will make them by the Yerusha. And as long as the Ger has not yet actively taken possession of the Yain or the idols, he's absolutely committed to make the salary of his brother. Right? And so you take this, you take this, whatever your stuff, even though yes, he wants to continue existence. Why? Why would they go by a get? Like, Zera Shem Yafsir. They are afraid that if the get has to make a choice between his money, his Yerusha, and his religion, he will choose his money or choose his religion. They'll say, that's not really not going to be get. That's a reality of human nature. We've seen this before as well. For example, right? This is something like the Prophet Shalom. Chazal said that in certain cases of theft, the thief doesn't always have to return that which he stole. Right? And the victim should not accept that which was stolen for the lie in order to go ahead and facilitate the thief's situation. The greatest that he has to return everything without any reaction. It's difficult for people to engage in self-sacrifice when it comes to financial things. Money is necessary. Money is important. And as much as we say, as long as you have your health, true. As long as you have your health and you can pay your bills. Right? Because if you don't have money, it's just and many people do not stand up to religious challenges. There is a choice between religion and they're afraid that if he has to choose between halacha and ultimately again his Yerusha, he may be tempted to choose his Yerusha. Again, not because of the gift, because it's human nature. So therefore, Chazal didn't want to put him in that situation. Therefore, they make it by a hair. And he's saying that often in this kind of case, you're going to have an estate that is comprised of permitted items and unpermitted items. Therefore, allow him to keep the permitted items if his brother or mother are given. They'll say 100 days. Rachi writes that supports this. Imagine when is this so? Shirshu, the case of Yerusha. About Mishpat Fias. If let's say a business partnership with the answer. So you see from here that Chazal allowed certain things to happen in the context of Yerusha, but they were not normally allowed to occur in other contexts as well, because you don't want to put the person in this precarious type of situation. Incredible. So remember that. How do you also plan that? Remember again, all of this is just same people, sitting together. Another question was Ger Tosha no Shivata Avodah. So that's like this is very interesting. Can we get Tosha? Go ahead. And let's say just before you go, just this idea that Chazal will make it by the day. Just so you understand the tremendous consequences of this. Halacha is structured in a way to make us succeed. That a Bono Shem Olam wants us to succeed. Sometimes people have a very skewed view of Hakadosh Baruch Hu, a very skewed view of Halacha. That Hakadosh Baruch Hu is waiting for us to mess up so he can smack us down. He's not waiting for us to mess up so he can levy some type of punishment that he against us. That's a pretty far from the truth. The Bono Shem wants our success more than we want our success. Chazal wants our success more than we want our success. And all of the halachas, all of the rules, all of the strictures, and all of the punishments are only there to put us on a path to success, not to smack us down when we go ahead and we make a mistake. But again, Mishpah understood what we need in order to be successful. Chazal understood what we need in order to be successful. And when they need to relax the standards to make us successful, they do it. It's incredible. They do it. When success is accomplished through relaxing of standards, Chazal do not know if you have no greater advocate in this world. That's in this world than in the next world. In this world, Chazal constantly looking for successes. Okay, incredible question. How do you also call it? Ger Toshav, Ma Shevat Al. What's very interesting. Can a Ger Toshav go ahead and abolish or negate idolatry? Remember again, an Akum has the ability to negate his idolatry, thereby decommissioning it from its status of theological significance. So a Ger Toshav, you want to know what is a Ger Toshav? Now we're going to see this about the definition of a Ger Toshav. Rashi points out here on the top of the daf, Ger Toshav, Eino Ovid Avodas. Ultimately, again, he doesn't worship idolatry. But again, he's like an Akum in everything else, except he doesn't worship idolatry. Right? He believes in Hakadosh Baruch Hu. He believes in God. He doesn't worship idolatry, but in every other respect, he's a non-Jew. So does such a person have the ability to decommission idolatry, to negate idolatry? As says, on one hand, the Palach Mavata Lo Palach Mavata. We say only one who worships idolatry can decommission idolatry. Or maybe not. Or we say like this: anyone who's what we call a bar mineh, If you're in the parsha of an apple, then you could go ahead and do Krishna Avodah. And this guy is in the parsha. He's not Jewish. He's not Jewish. So because he's not Jewish, he's in the parsha of an apple. So because of that, even though Baruch Hashem, he himself doesn't worship idolatry, but he has the koach to go ahead and negate it. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to do this. Stavro, the koach, the battle, the koach. He says, no, only someone who worships it can negate it. But someone who doesn't worship idolatry cannot negate idolatry. Therefore, the Ger Tosha doesn't have the ability to negate idolatry. So they say, this one second. The social, that's how it is. So, went ahead and found idolatry in the marketplace. Found idolatry in the marketplace. What's that about? Actual boss of the owner. So let's say, so now remember again. So let's say, right, listen to this case. I'm walking in the shop, I'm walking in the marketplace. I see a gold idol sitting there on the ground. If I lift it up, that's problematic, right? Because they never covered it. And once it's been acquired by a Jew, essentially it can't be decommissioned. So what do I do? So before I pick it up, I can call over an apple. Call over an apple and see if the apple. I need you to engage with this idolatry, decommission it, right? Theological decommissioning. So go ahead and engage with theological decommissioning of this idolatry. It's permitted. However, again, Mishabasa Liodo, ain't no only open from the but again, if I take it out, or if I take possession of it, at that point it cannot be decommissioned. Ovid Kochaven Levaka Abodas Kochavu Shalom, Shafavim. Ovid Kochaven Lakum, decommission his own Avodah Zarah, or the Avodah Zarah of his friend, Bain of God, Bain Shein of, whether he worships it or he doesn't worship it. Now we're going to define this in the phrase. Might of God and might be of. What does it mean the word? What does it mean that the decommission of Avodah Zarah, whether he worships it or doesn't worship it? If you want to say that both are talking about Akum, then Hainu Shalom Shachabim. We already said that. You said before that Akum has the ability to theologically decommission his Avodah Zarah and the Avodah Zarah of his friend. And the love of the Ovid Kohanim, love of the Ovid Kohanim, right? Ultimately, again, of the means an actual Akum. What does it mean? Non-worshipper, Ger Toshaf. Oh. So who is able to go ahead and decommission both an actual Ger Toshaf? Shmanino, Ger Toshaf, Nanilabata. What do you see from here? That a Ger Toshaf has the ability to be Mabata, ultimately to theologically decommission Avodah Zarah. Incredible. Which the Gemara says, no. The Olam Emelachah, not true. Rather, Kukai will be the only person who decommission Avodah Zarah as an actual idol worshiper himself. I did the comrade. I knew Shalom B'Shafar. We said they already said that. And then the price is redundant. Because they already said that I'm going to go ahead and decommission his Avodah Zarah and his friend's Avodah Zarah. It says relations to this. It's two different cases. Reisha, Zeh, the Zeh of Har, the Zeh, the Zeh of Marcus. Reisha is teaching me like this. If you have two Akums, right, and both worship Baal, or both worship Marcus, so obviously, again, Akum 1 could negate his idol and his friend's idol, and Akum 2 could negate his idol and his friend's idol. Seifa, Zeh of Har, the Zeh of Marcus. Oh, the Seifa is teaching something different. Let's see if one Akum who worships Marcus and one who worships Baal Ha'ar. What's the novelty over here? An Akum who worship an idolatry even if he doesn't worship idolatry. So we'll say, so really three halachas we follow. Number one, an Akum can negate his own idolatry. Good. Number two, an Akum can negate his friend's idol if they worship the same idolatry. And halacha number three is an Akum can negate his friend's idolatry even if he worships a different thing. Incredible. So the Gemara says, but again, no raya about a Ger Toshaf, right? So when it comes to a Ger Toshaf, we still like his Avodah Zarah. Can a Ger Toshaf, which is a Gentile who repudiated idolatry, can he be Mevad Lava? That was the answer. What's a Ger Toshaf? So now we're getting the definition. What is the definition of a Ger Toshaf? So that kosher kiva up with Mekinah Shalom La'avon Avodas Kavim. Meir says it's any Akum who is accepted of himself in front of three Chaver. Chaver, we spoke about it before. somebody who's careful with cheese and someone who's careful about to look. So in this context, with Hashem, it just means he has to look like a paste. Anytime an apple comes in front of a paste, and he repudiates idolatry, that's a ger toshav. That's a ger toshav. Good. That's right there. From say, Moshe Kibbutz Allah Sheva Mitzvos. So Moshe Kibbutz Allah Sheva Mitzvos. Some say a ger toshav is any Gentile who has accepted upon himself the 7 Noah 5. Don't seem to require a base. That's a ger toshav. Sheva Mitzvos Noah. That makes it a ger toshav. Freedom only. It will go well with ger toshav. Not true. Him saying, naturally, that's not it. Neither of these definitions satisfy the definition of ger toshav. What is a ger toshav? And what is a ger toshav? Ze ger ofer nevelos shekibel above the kayim kol mitzvos amuros katorah chutz me'isser nevelos. So this is very interesting. What is the definition of a ger toshav? A ger toshav is someone ultimately again who eats not kosher, eats nevelos, but he has accepted upon himself the rest of the mitzvahs in the Torah. It's a pretty shocking definition. So what's that? Really enough is out there. Definition of ger toshav. Rabbi Meir, he accepted upon himself in front of the base of idolatry. Chachamim, he accepted upon himself Shem Yisrael Noah. Chayrim, he has accepted upon himself all of the mitzvahs except the laws of Kashrus. He's not in kosher. Incredible, incredible. When the Brisa goes on, Yachadin Etzlo Yain Ve'imach Machkitin Etzlo Yain. If you say the halacha is you can deposit wine with a ger toshav, right? You can leave it with him for a little bit of time. I should say deposit. You can leave with him wine for a short amount of time, but you can't deposit with him wine for a long amount of time. Now, what's the reason? What are we concerned about over here? We're concerned ultimately again that Rashi says Rashi says over here, Yisrael Maniach Bechanusa Hashemi Lech so much thinking of it. The Hakiban below Palach, lo Nogov lo Manasseh, the Magov from Basina Amar Besa Rochesh. Even the Ilo Anoa Bekach, Ilo Maniko Liba Olaf, who say his man Amua, Lekal Lechash. So ultimately, again, you can deposit wine with him for a short amount of time. Not for a longer amount of time because we're concerned that he may swap out the juice wine for his own wine. Okay. And this is true even in a city where the majority of the inhabitants are Jews. So as I said, the ger toshav, you could leave with him for a short amount of time, not for a long time. Again, we're not talking yayin nesa. Why not talking yayin nesa? Because he's repudiated idolatry. Right? But we are concerned that over time, for a longer amount of time, he may switch his wine from the Jews. So for a short amount of time, it's mutter. For a long amount of time, fasting. Shmano kiyeno. So the Gemara says, and his oil is like his wine. What is that? Shmano case, and I thought shemen nita avi yayin. Except what we wrong with his oil. Oil can't be into yayin. So hello yeno kishmano. Interestingly enough, rather what it uses like this, and halacha l'maisa, that ultimately again his wine, his wine is like his oil, just like his just like his oil is permitted, so to ultimately again is his wine. I'll look at Rashi just a moment. Rashi Shmano B'Nihavi Yares Al Yeno Utemana Shmano Kodu Shoter Hashem Ba'Achilo Chai About B'Shtia Aser. What does it mean that his oil is like that his wine is like his oil? That the same way that you can get hana from his oil, you can get hana from his wine. You can't drink the wine that you get toshav, but ultimately you can get hana from his wine. The Shar Kol Davar ultimately then for every other thing, Ariyu Kol Lecha. He's like an apple. Shimon Omer Yeno Yayin Nesa. Va'amulei Muter Va'amulei Muter Mishkia. Shimon says his wine is like Yayin Nesa, but others say ultimately again that it is Muter ultimately again for consumption for Shkia. So it actually calls over here. We'll pick up on the answer. Actually, let's finish. Let's finish this again. What do you see from here? With the shard part by the public level. We see from here that the apple is like an apple. Here, Toshav is like an apple regarding every other matter. So, ultimately, again, what does it mean when we say that here, Toshav is like an apple for everything else? What is that? To which the Gemara says, love, So it doesn't matter. This was again, how did this person that Ger Kosher instead? Got started was we're trying to figure out, doesn't Ger Kosher have the ability to negate idolatry, the theologically decommission idolatry? So now we just got finished saying that in this respect, Ger Kosher is unique, but in every other matter, he's like an apple. Doesn't that mean that just as an apple can theologically decommission and negate that Holy Sarah, so too can it get Toshav? So too can it get Toshav? To which the Gemara says, no, no, Likin Rishus Ulavato Rishus. No, it actually means something else. It means actually Rosh Hashanah. What does it mean Rosh Hashanah? What's it? It's Kiddushaniah. So more, the Shemer Shabbos Rosh Hashanah. Just Erev Chatzos. If you have multiple homes that open up into a courtyard, you cannot carry from a home into that courtyard, from a home into the courtyard without an Erev. Right? Erev essentially means we collect food from all of the inhabitants of Chatzar. They join together, and that joint food makes it into the domain of one home. If we pass the home into the Chatzar, Chatzar to the home. But the halacha is, if you have a Jew who did not join into the Chatzar, he can yield his rights. Let's say if Shabbos started, forgot to participate in the Ruben forgot to participate in the Erev, he can yield his rights to the other members of the Chatzar. If there is a non-Jewish resident, the halacha is you have to rent his rights from him. You cannot simply yield his rights, you have to rent his rights from him. So watch this. The Gemara says, Yisrael Moho, the Shamer Shabbos of the Shop, without the Rishus. Ultimately, again, the Yisrael Moho, unfortunately, again, it's Yisrael to an apostate. So as long as externally he's not an apostate, right? As long as externally, like, right, and public he keeps Shabbos, privately he doesn't keep Shabbos, and at least in public he keeps Shabbos. And what's the halacha? Without the Rishus, all he needs to do if he didn't participate in the Erev, he just needs to essentially yield his rights to someone else in the process. Okay. Shim Shabbos Shabbos Rishus, in without the Rishus, but again, if he publicly violates Shabbos, and essentially he's like an apple, then it's not enough for him to yield his rights in the process to the other residents. Rather, you have to rent his rights from him. Sha'amru, Yisrael, no sin Rishus or without Rishus. Right? Yisrael ultimately again has the ability to go ahead and yield his right, give up his rights, or give over his rights to the other residents. Ultimately, you have to rent. So therefore, again, the Gemara is saying that when you say, so let's just finish off. Ketzad, over law, I'll say how does include, for example, yield his rights or give over his rights to the Chatzar? Over law, you should say I hereby give over my rights. I give my rights to the Chatzar to you, or you should see or my rights are negated to you. Ultimately, it works here. Non-participatory Jew who participated in the Eruv, they talk with discussing. You're not even informal discussing. Just in general, about Eruv Chatzeros, again, you need the participation of all Jewish residents. In general, if you have a Jewish resident who did not participate, even on Shabbos, he could yield his rights or be Mobat, or just simply negate his ownership rights in the Chatzar that allows everyone else to utilize the Chatzar. Even if he's a Yisrael Mullah, as long as publicly he comes across as Jewish, ultimately, again, he can yield or he could go ahead and work with proof. By Apple, you have to go ahead and acquire his rights. And the Yisrael Mullah, who is publicly a Mullah, is treated like a full circle. As therefore, when we said before that a Ger Kosher ultimately, again, is treated like an apple. For all other things means that if you live in a Chatzar with a Ger Kosher, you are choosing the Chatzar want to make it bigger zeros, they must rent the space, they must rent the rights ultimately again of the Ger Kosher. Now, whether or not the Ger Kosher is actually going to read the Sarah, in the Shah will say, you will see it tomorrow's daf. Shperech everyone, but a daf, one incredible experience that just sustains all of you.